The Naked Gun is the latest film directed by Akiva Schaffer. Now, he is one of the most promising comedic directors working today, directing some of my favorite comedy movies of the past 25 years, such as Hot Rod, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and of course, he's also part of The Lonely Island, so he knows his comedy. This film stars Liam Neeson serving as a legacy sequel, where he plays the son of Frank Drebin, who was originally played by Leslie Nielsen. So already the play on words is present in the casting here, but the also notable thing about the original Naked Gun trilogy is that it is meant to have serious actors in the roles of the star comedic performances. And so before the great Leslie Nielsen was a comedic star, he was a serious actor. And so part of what makes these spoof movies work so well is you have these serious line deliveries with these comedic absurd premises. And so Liam Neeson is really the perfect choice to continue this legacy, and he's joined by Pamela Anderson, another perfect casting choice for the leading lady. Now, I am a huge fan of the original trilogy, specifically the first one. I grew up on these types of movies, so I am perfectly in line with this style of humor. So while my expectations were high from this franchise and also the director attached to it, it was also just exciting to see a studio comedy get a somewhat big release. The buzz around this was strong, and earning $17 million its opening weekend is definitely promising for a modern studio comedy. And so if you're asking if I like this movie or not, I think there was a very little chance that the jokes weren't going to land. In my opinion, it's hilarious, and it's tough because comedy is such a subjective art form, and so that makes it difficult to review in any sort of objective nature like I would with other films. I can try to point to specific jokes that I personally found funny, but everyone is going to have a different relationship with this film depending on if the humor lands or not. But what I will say is that you should see this in a packed theater, because this is a movie that will be funnier hearing an audience around you and allowing that laughter to be contagious. It's also a brief 85 minutes, and I'm not usually someone who complains about movie length, but it does feel quite refreshing just to get to the point, tell the jokes, and get out of there. If I had to pick some critique about it, I do think there are moments within this film that the humor feels a bit imbalanced, and where it tries to utilize several different types of humor rather than just sticking to one. And it's not even a bad thing. I just think the expectations of this being a straightforward spoof comedy don't exactly work out that way. Where the original trilogy really stuck to the formula, this deadpan straight man delivery, where the title character is taking everything literally. And this movie certainly continues that, but it also tries to be a bit more progressive with the genre. There are moments where it goes from spoof to straight up parody of other films. There's a sequence in here that directly references Mission Impossible Fallout, and I'm sure it's going to be just as funny if you haven't seen that film, but it is almost a direct beat for beat remake. And so on top of trying to be a spoof comedy, it's trying to do a lot of other things as well. It attempts to be this meta commentary on legacy sequels, and of course the dialogue surrounding that is very cleverly written, but I do have to wonder if the script could have been a little tighter and even a bit funnier if it would have just been more consistent with the type of humor. And for that reason, I don't know if this is going to be a comedy that stands the test of time, being one that I rewatch over and over for years to come, but I also don't think it needs to be. This is a perfectly executed comedy where the majority of the jokes landed and I had a great time. So while I don't necessarily think this is going to revitalize the spoof genre, and I'm not certain that this film is going to be the one pointed to for bringing back comedies to theaters, I think it's a step in the right direction, even if it feels regressive going back to a genre that we've seen so many times before. But even if that's the case, it felt really good to be laughing in a theater once again. So those are some of my brief thoughts on The Naked Gun, but I would love to hear if you have seen the movie. So if you've seen it, please comment below, and I will see you next time.